qualifications and you know, widen their skill set.
I'm a bit nervous about people joining it to get the qualifications, if I'm honest. I think if you're going to volunteer and help people, do it for its own sake rather than for the little carrot at the end of it. But I think the principle should surely be we get a lot of outreach workers who are skilled, who are trained, and actually, but they don't declare it. Once you label them, I think there's an issue with the very act of labelling. That's just a suggestion, but I don't.
Well, I think part of it, I mean, you introduce formality even short of qualification by having this thing of being an approved doc. And I suppose having that level is meant to be an attraction, an inducement to encourage people to do more mentoring and helping in an informal way. So it's meant to stimulate more of what goes on anyway down the path with your mate. But once you introduce a bit of formality, you've got to try and realise that you can't pretend that there isn't a level of formality. And if someone is approving, you can't pretend that that doesn't mean something. The thing is to get the balance right. That's what I hope we try to do. But you have it completely informal. I mean, we did actually start off with the idea that it would be completely informal and that there would be people just sign up and that was it. But I think we realised that actually, just by having a sort of scheme of putting a label on people, you have some responsibility. You have to recognise, and we've been trying, we've hopefully worked out a way of limiting that. But have it completely informal, we don't have a scheme. Maybe we shouldn't have a scheme, I don't know, but anyway, we're trying to see how the scheme makes a difference.
I mean, certainly qualifications aren't the only type of I do think, personally speaking, right, so for instance, I sorted out my next door neighbour's wireless network. He's a builder, and he now vets any building quote that I get and tells me whether it's a decent deal or if I'm being ripped off. So there's quite a lot of benefit in helping other people. Because they can quite often help you as well. There's also just the intrinsic, like you said actually, there's the intrinsic satisfaction of actually feeling vaguely useful in some way. So I don't think, certainly I don't think going on to further courses or qualifications is the only carrot we can offer.
I just think there's going back to the beginning. Did you do that wireless work because you've been gone through the doc process?
No.
Right. Because this is where I'm a bit at a loss as to where this whole thing is going. If we've got people out there, the builder knows that Nick's got some IT experience. He asks Nick to help out. Nick is successful in doing it. That's great. And if it hadn't have worked, they'd probably still smile, but he wouldn't ask you again to do it. That's the way we operate at an interpersonal level, isn't it? So if somebody now has this dot approval, then what?
Well, because people at dots have got access to a kind of system of support, they can expand their own skills. So, this is probably not a good example for Nick.
No, if I got stuck, I could go on the forum and ask.
This neighbour said, oh, that's really good, can you teach me how to use Skype? And, Nick might say, well, I don't know, but there is a tutorial, I'll download that and I'll read that. So in doing that, he's advanced his own skills and helps somebody else. So I think that's the point of having a scheme rather than just let it happen.
So it's an ongoing process. It never, although there's an approval, that's only a step, and it never stops. Becoming a DOT never stops. In other words, right.
And I mean, the whole aim of the scheme is to raise skill levels at all levels of skill, and to cope with when skills that are required, of course, are changing so rapidly. So it's that sort of lifelong learning mechanism that we're trying to create. And the docs are means to that end rather than an end in themselves. And we don't want it to stop once they've become approved. Goes back to Nick's question.
I mean, I think for docs the problem is, I mean, I've mentioned this in the other workshops, so I'm sorry, heard this before, but I mean, it crossed my mind that one way I ought to deploy my dot skills is by telling my local pub landlord that I am one, and that anyone in the pub can contact me if they want any help. But I've held back from doing that because I don't want to get drowned in requests for help. But I imagine a lot of dogs kind of want to be available to help more people, but want to be able to control that many people.
So maybe that's the sort of discussion we should be seeding now on the dog forum.
Yes.
Because that sounds like it's one possible model that you sort of set yourself up with the local pub. Buy me a pint and I'll tell you how to get on right. But I mean, I'm sure there's other models of how you, So I think it would be good to do that. So what we want is not, we don't want to say, now go down your local pub, Dick, and do this. What we want is people to come up with ideas and suggestions themselves and do it because they want to, not because anyone tells them to. Once we get to telling them to, it's it defeats the purpose of the scheme, but also it raises all those liabilities which we don't want to get into because they're horrible and nasty.
And then another point I was mentioning about lifelong skills, I've obviously got skills which apply to the dog program. But one thing I've learned about being about is I used to, some users I've got a problem with, they're all do it. They sit there going, oh, but now I actually go and show somebody how to do it. Because that's something what I picked up from the forum, it's about showing people. So I've learned to train somebody at a very small level, but I've learned that skill. That's a skill I didn't have. I couldn't train with it. I didn't fool. I kind of went and did it and walked away. But now I can sit and say, right, here's what we need to do. If you want to press on, so you do it. I've learned that skill. So it's a skill I've learned. My IT skills haven't really improved because they were already there. But I've learned that skill. But these people, all the people I have shown, they've picked my skills because they're now doing it. Instead of me doing it for. So it's killing two birds with one stone. That's my skill I've learned. I'm learning that there. I just don't know what you're about.
I think that's a really important point, and it perhaps helps us a little bit in terms of the liability issue, because I think about your example, Nick, in the wireless network. I think a lot of people in the pub would ask for the assessment, but we can say things approach, which is, well, I'm not actually going to fix it for you, but I can show you how you might go about doing it. Then it's their choice, isn't it? Because if they have to invest the effort in learning it, or they pay somebody to come and do it. And so docs are protecting themselves from being used as free IT professional support, but B, the skills are shared, which is a really nice outcome as well. And it also protects the docs. I think perhaps you get to the point where somebody asks you to do something really complicated, and you sort of there as a place where you can pull back and say, well, you need a professional for that. So that's the limit. My expectation. Just to say one little thing about volunteering, I know there are a lot of people who've got far more experience of volunteering and being part of support for volunteers than I have. But I think it is absolutely critical that volunteers are supported and well supported, and I think that's why this scheme notion has to work, because people can choose to volunteer to do a whole range of different kinds of work, but they will be much better at doing this if they're supported by an organisation and scheme of some kind. I think that all evidence would point to that, really.
Any more? More thoughts?
We left Gary in the lurch.
Can I ask a question then? Sorry. Just about, when you describe that, about the Doncaster race course and the guy saying, will you go and fix your neighbour's thing, I've never envisaged the DOT scheme working like that. I could see the problem for employers, particularly, say, in the public sector. They'd ask an employee to train up as a DOT, and then in their face-to-face customer service role or whatever, they might use their DOT skills, and so encouraging people to go online. And I think there is an issue there with liability, actually, which I think they'd be very wary of. But I've never envisaged your employer asking you to go and do something outside your working time with another person who they know nothing about. I just don't see that reality.
No, well, perhaps bad example, but the idea was that the company would sign up to the scheme or wants to participate in the scheme, but then it's like, could be a job and perhaps you could, therefore asking to just
pops around. But the problem may be is that when it pops around to your house, you might be assuming that you're dealing with a company rather than the dog skin. It's those kind of things that become problematic. I think going back to your point, keeping up there, is around nothing. But like you said, I'll come round and show you what's on the computer. There's still that problem where people haven't got a computer and don't realise that you've got a cure for their problem by doing something on through the internet. And then that's a massive proportion of the population still totally ignored by, not by this scheme, but we're constantly thinking about, we show them what to do using their PC, their laptop. There's a lot more to it than that, I think. And I think it's that dialogue, particularly in places like supermarkets and hairdressers and doctors, surgeries, where this kind of thing will be teased out and then fed back into the program.
Okay, so I think last we just need to know, Nick, what pub do we need to go to?
Do your round.
Okay, so we're due back at 3, it's more or less 3 now, so